Hey, this is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things. I just picked up the September paper pumpkin, which is Haunts and Harvest. And we are coming back into Wickham Park, where we're camping, via the maintenance way, which actually takes us past the horse barns for the equestrian center that's here, which sadly, due to COVID, isn't having any activities this month. I was looking forward to maybe getting to see something going on here, but so far nothing. So stay tuned for more paper pumpkin fun. Hey, I am home and I am ready to break open and review the materials that are in the Haunts and Harvest September 2021 paper pumpkin kit. So I do know, I saw some sort of email, there is a pattern on the box to cut it out and I make a wheelbarrow. So we have a special color of tissue, which I always love. Oh, I should show you this. And then there's the rest of the wheelbarrow parts. So I might be taking that challenge on. So I see some raffia. All right, stamp set. We've got fall leaves, and they're like you've got the veins and then the leaf itself in two different shapes. A thank you. Happy Halloween. I like that particular mixed font. That's a good one. You're a blessing. I cannot read that. I pick you every time, that's what that is. And then, hey there, pumpkin. So our spot for today, or this month, is soft succulent. And I see that we have packaging that I will be able to convert to my A2 size alternatives that I like to do. Alright, so these must be handles for bags, treat bags perhaps, a whole bunch of labels. Oh, this must be the little bag shape. Those will be challenging, but I always love a challenge. You've got two patterns to work with. And then here's a wheel, so this must be more parts for the wagon project. These are stickers, and I see a directional like it's a brushed metal maybe. All right, and here is little pumpkin faces. Another set of dual pattern front and back gift bags. The leaves, so you can actually stamp the veins tone on tone. There are 3 pages of the leaf die cuts. A whole bunch of tear and tape strips. Double-sided, so it's not really tear and tape, it looks like it's the double-sided. And then a third pattern. And here's some circles. Now let's look at the instructions. I will not be making the instructed items, which are these bags. But I will be, here's what they look like finished. I will be converting them to A2 sized cards. All right, I will be going away to review cut up materials, and I will come back with some tips and ideas, and then I will make my focals and my bases, and we'll do a final mix and match. So stay tuned. All right, I'm done taking apart all of the pieces, and I've gathered some extra materials, and I'm going to go through all of them and discuss them. So the packaging ends up creating double-sided. I flipped them, and so you get counting these up, I could have done it ahead of time. 17, 18, 19, 20. Around 26 of each design, that then you can 13 of each if you flip-flop them. I cut one into the largest rectangle that made sense. You can see here that that's about all you're going to get. You maybe can squeeze out, you know, a 16th more. And again, this pattern has the opposite pattern on the back. You have 3 sheets of the leaves. These leaves can be cut to be used as is, perhaps popped up as a background layer. You can also take one of these and use them as a stencil, and use a finger dauber to add the color to, say, a white background. Here is a piece of basic white, so you could do it at an angle. Maybe I will do one of those before I finish this. I'll do this at the end. You end up with 4 hexagons per design, or 2 hexagons of each color, for a total of 6 colors. You have a whole bunch of little tags that you can use as a layer. I think there's a dozen here because there are 12 gift packages. These leaves can be, there's 2 leaf shapes, and you can sponge them. You can stamp the vein pattern on them, sponge the edges. You can also take scissors or a knife and rough up the edges on any of these pieces. And so that's all of these pieces. I still think looking at them, you're going to be able to get, depending on how sparingly you use these pieces, and then you also have the stamps when you run out of the packaging cardstock patterns. You can still probably get 20+ cards out of the deal, A2 size. So then I pulled some supplies from my stash. First, I pulled the colors that were listed in the instructions are soft succulent, basic black poppy parade, pumpkin pie, and pale papaya. So those are the colors that are in all of these patterns. I then pulled Whisper White, which is now Basic White, I just haven't changed the name, Evening Evergreen, Crumb Cake, Soft Suede, Early Espresso, Cajun Craze, and Cinnamon Cider are my added color options to increase the variations that you can get and help you pull materials to make more. I pulled some embossing folders. This is new in the holiday catalog, the wood grain bricks, the painted surface, and the textile surface. So these 4 were the best neutral embossing folders that I think would go well. And I did grab 2 bundles. Gorgeous Leaves, which I have the dies for, and Sparkle of the Season, which I also have the dies for. And if you needed more sprigs, there are a variety of sprigs available in sets like Forever Fern, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and grab, as I promised, the basic white. I'm going to put this on at an angle. There's also the new decorative masks. Actually, any of the decorative masks you can add and make a nice busy background, adding the decorative masks and these leaves. But I am going to open this, and here is again my easy instructions on how to open these spots. You simply take an X-Acto and run it where the seam between the top and the bottom meet. I did just use this X-Acto to cut all of the pieces out from the treat bags or treat containers. So this is a dull X-Acto knife, but see, once you cut both sides, it just pops right off. I'm gonna do, before I show the stencil technique, I'm gonna go ahead and show you what the veins look like. You could also use the white side if you wanted and color them with whatever color you need. Alright, so that's what the veining looks like, tone on tone. Now, this straight, I'm going to do these at an angle. That was a little bit wet. Now remember that your spot is going to be very wet, which I might not like that heavy. So start, but now I'm going to have to add the heavy on each one just to make it make sense visually. Stenciling is just the easiest way, I think, to utilize any of these extra negatives that you don't need. They make really good stencils, so that is just something you should always have. So here's what a really quick stencil job looks like, and even though I messed that one up, I added some darks to a number of these so that it makes sense, and then I can trim this down any way I want. Added it with some layers, with some solid colors. I could do something fun. And add, I'm just doing a quick mock-up without having thought about it. Just like that. And then trim down the white, add a couple of layers with some matting in complementary colors, and boom, you've got yourself one card done. So that is all I've got now for the prep, and I'm going to go away and start coming up with some focal and backgrounds, and then I will come back and do some mixing and matching. Oh, I had one other thing I wanted to show you. This is white based. Oh, it's not white based, but it is white based if you look at the sides. So let's say you wanted to cut a bunch of these strips out, do some random embossing on them. Don't forget to use a sanding block to sand off the color down to the white. That is another really fun technique, and I definitely will have at least one example showing that. I'm going too fast, I can tell. So we've got these raffia bits that are able to be shaped, and that's because inside them is a wire. So what I've done is I've started to unravel this raffia, and you can just pull out the wire, and then you have this wonderful textured paper to do all sorts of fun things with. So don't forget that. Now I'm looking around. One other interesting bit, this is again for the wagon, that there are some instructions online for, and there's a whole bunch of non-cut areas on this black. This is again a sticker, so you could do some small die cuts and add black accents to your card, and I will be doing that as well. I'm not sure on the smiley, there are some very small areas, but you've still got all these different shapes to work with. You could easily make some pumpkin faces, especially out of these hexagons. You can add some hints of pumpkin using the face pieces, or you can cut out very small elements off of this sheet. And for the wagon, you get 2 sheets to work with, so there's quite a bit of extra material on here, so don't forget that. And now I think I have covered everything, so I'll go away and come back with some mix and matching. All right, I am finally back. I know to you it's been an instant, but for me it's been hours. Every Halloween it always seems that this kit has a lot of material that needs to be prepped. So I'm going to share with you first the materials that I prepped. Then I'm going to share the simple stamping on white that I did, and then we'll get into some of the more advanced things that I prepared, and I've already done photography, so hopefully I won't miss anything. First, I wanted to say that I think I counted 26 of these, and little individual pieces that I cut down. I further cut them down into long, skinny rectangles. There was a small subset that ended up, maybe because of the pieces, a little bit fatter and a little bit shorter, so I kept them in separate piles. From here, there was the hexagons, and I have put some dimensionals on the back of 4 of them for my photography. These 4 I picked. There are 2 reds and there are 2 greens, so I picked my favorite 4. The other red is the lighter with the darker, the inverse of this one, in a little pattern. And the other green has a little bit of a pattern to it that you might be able to see, like a 4-leaf flower, simple line art. So I chose these 2 to be my 4 for the hexagons, so that, because once I put the dimensionals on them, I can't, take them back. They do not come off. So then I took and I made 4 roughed up edges rectangles. I then brought out some more inks and did color on color to get rid of the white, which I really like. I chose a variety of things to do with the leaves, and here are the different ways. I just did a basic stamp of the veins. Then I did sponging. I'm going to show you on white. So sponging, veins, roughed up the edges, which actually shows better on the black. And then this one is roughed up edges that have been sponged, and there's veins, which in real life, that one is the favorite one, and I use that for most of my photography. I then picked some trims. This is Evening Evergreen, and here's what it looks like on white. The gold fine art trim with the little gold flecks. I have the, from the holiday catalog, this is the kind of a crocheted, very vanilla looking, that I just did a knot. And pale papaya, a nice basic bow. So then with these sentiments, I prepared a side flag thank you. The very first card that I did after I did the basic stamping was, I will tell you, it's a shaker. The very second card I did was an avid. And then from there, I started going back to the basics. I personally am an avid crafter, so I find that I'm drawn to it, so I just let myself get my 2 avid design schemes out of the way, and I have enough materials to make more of that level if that's what I choose to do with these, rather than the kind of more casual cards that I took photography of. And I did a Happy Halloween, which I used Tasteful Touches, has a die that does the stitching, so I used that. All of them will fit nicely using that particular one. I made just a square, I pick you every time. I have a punch that is a label punch. It's my favorite label design. This is the one. It will be, it's a take your pick label, and I will have it on the supplies list. And my favorite one is the top one, so I went ahead and did a thank you. It fit perfectly. And that is all that I had. Oh, and I have a basic thank you. Here we go. So I used these for my photography. I just kind of mixed them up. All right, so from here, I then prepared one fun way to use the rectangles that I wanted to share, and that is I put them together. Here is the back. Just put them on something to hold them all together with double back tape. So I'm going to use that element. I also then unfurled the raffia. This is one of the leftover pieces. I haven't done anything with this. This piece I went ahead and unrolled, and I have applied as a layer above the orange. So this was my focus on Halloween. I did find with the green, I actually did not make any stamped sentiments other than green. I also ended up having plenty of die cut pieces, so I did not use any of the items from the 2 sets that I think go really nicely, Gorgeous Leaves and Sparkle of the Season. I did not need to do them because I already have 20 images to post at the end with the showcase. So when I'm going through like this and I pick out some possibilities, very often if a kit is really full of supplies, I end up not having to use it. The only other supply, so I used some colored inks on the 4 rectangles. That's all I did ink wise, and then I did use copper on one of my Avid elements that I create, my focals that I created. So I'm going to show you my basic stamped images on this black. So the very first one I did was this thank you, and the only flub was this little piece here is the squiggle stamp. You see it right here. I stamped it off, and this is how it looks stamped off. It did not come out smooth. I had used the stencil technique to get these leaves on. I think I stenciled this with you, and then I just stamped the thank you and the vein on one of them, and wanted to add a third element, but it kind of didn't work out perfectly with this stamp. I'm looking for my other. All right, then I did on the back, I had a much better success rate here on doing a full background with repeated text. You're a blessing. And I like how this came out. So this is a very nice idea. You can do these all day long with this set. Very nice. Then I took and did one more stencil because I wasn't very happy with the first stencil. And I actually stenciled it 3 directions using painter's tape. First I stenciled this direction, had painter's tape. Second direction with painter's tape, and I stopped it at the other mark and then shifted the angle to this side. Then I added 2 veins and a thank you. Oh, 3 veins and a thank you. And I think that that's very cute. It could be trimmed down, it could be put on a soft succulent mat and make a very nice card. You could then also easily take any of the rectangles and sentiment and make a nice card with a mat that coordinates to make these a little dressier. And this one as well, you could very easily dress up this with I pick you every time. I like that sentiment. That is a great sentiment to give to my husband. So those are the basics. Moving on to, I'll do a couple of more casual designs and save the 2 Avid pieces that I created for last. All right, so this is Pale Papaya with the hammered metal dry embossing folder, and this makes a really nice Halloween card with this strip that I created, the raffia, and you can use any number of items for the sentiment layer. Now I did do it in green, and because I did stick with green, I think what works really well is to go ahead and add a layer of green, and you'll see a variety of pictures of this laid out some different ways. And what I think is nice is when you add some green leaves. And there should be a third one here. So if you're looking at my dots, I had some sequins out, but I didn't use. Artistry Blooms has some nice complementary colors in the oranges. The Matte Decorative Dots has this whole shade of saffron, soft succulent, and then there's some other colors in here that you could pick from the yellow and the red. And what I ended up using was brushed metallic copper, and you could even, depending on what tones you put for your base, you could use either the gold or this kind of a brass bronze color if you would like. So I like this card, and then you can do, you know, either the Pale Papaya bow. If you want to get fancier, you can do the crochet. You could, I'll show you what the Halloween, Happy Halloween looks like. And I like the build-up of this card and have a bunch of pictures taken with it built up. Now I'm going to show you a really nice dry emboss. Now this, when I embossed this, I did use soft suede so that it has not only the texture of the wood grain, but also some color differentiation. And then it's very, when you dry emboss with it, it gets all wavy because of the detail. So I went ahead and applied it to a basic white. You could even do basic white thick if you really want it to stay flat. And I was pretty happy with it. Still a little bit ripply, even with the application of the basic white behind. And I like all sorts of different ways this can be used on everything. So if you wanted to just take some hexagons and let's use this guy, and you can just take those hexagons, put them wherever you like, add some leaves, even add the leaves on the hexagons like that. And then you've got your bows you can add pretty much anywhere. I just like the piecemeal. I like the strips. I think I've, on a recent video, said I like DSP and strips. And so having this big pile of strips, I could just go to town and make a whole bunch of cards for either Thanksgiving or Halloween to send out using all of these different strips and prepare them. The one thing I didn't do that I did mention is with a sanding block, I could send these through either the rectangles or the hexagons can be sent through a dry embossing folder or folders, and then you can scratch it down, sand it down to the white. So this, I think, is a very nice background to use in, and you don't even have to do the wood grain. You can just do any of your dry embossing folders that you have. And I'm gonna grab a different one from my pile. I did a whole bunch of them. So down deeper, I do have red. This is a Poppy Parade with the artist palette embossing. And then from here, I see you can add some either horizontally or vertically. I don't have these popped up. I would probably pop them up. I'm going to do this. And I think as just a nice casual card with Happy Halloween on the orange piece is very colorful. I don't even think I would feel that I would have to use the leaves. You can just put a bow, add the copper, add the sequins, whatever you feel like embellishing, and that's a perfect Halloween card. I then have a couple of really fun, this is a full back. It's one of the half width dry embossing folders, and I have a specific, what I made this specifically for, but I think it also would work really well with the vertical. Adding Happy Halloween. I put it up here with the orange. Again, just a nice casual, very quick card to make. Add a bow. These copper dots would look great on the evening evergreen. There's my last one. Oops. Perfect card. Very casual. And you can make these in bulk with this particular kit. Alright, so those are some nice casual ideas. Now I'm going to move on to the two fancy ones that I created. I have to get out a particular sequin. So these are sequins for everything that come in 4 colors. I am doing a Halloween theme, so I picked the orange and gold for this. And I've used for both of my Avid cards that I made. I will show you. Here is the popped up stencil paper. We had 2 of these. So I went ahead and cut the first one in half horizontally, and I made a popped up element. It can be tone on tone. You could pop colors behind it, add raffia, add a sentiment. And I am looking for, here it is. Alright, so that's the basic version. The other half of it, I decided to go full on shaker. These are really staticky, so I'm gonna throw them on here and then set them aside. Trying to pick them up quickly is just not something they're willing to do. So the nice thing, I decided to use the trick of, in order to keep the sequins more visible, I will show you what I did to the back. So I took a big window sheet, applied it to the top 2 rows that I cut off, but then I made individual channels for each row of leaves so that the sequins are going to stay visible for the top row of leaves and the bottom row of leaves. So it will look something like that. And then of course you can do any number of sentiment treatments. It can be very simple. It's like a tone on tone like this. And any kind of a bow. And you've got one fancy shaker card, easy peasy, using what would be a throwaway piece of material. I have now turned into 2 really nice card fronts. And this looks very nice as well on this evening evergreen. And then the orange of these sequins really pops. Like I said, they're very staticky. Could be me. Alright, so just to show you how fun that is, here it is on Evening Evergreen. So that was my first Avid card that I made. I'm going to just set this aside to put away later. One item I did not use was the black. If you remember these, you get 2 sheets of these. And I did not get a chance to cut out any pieces because I ended up with 20. That's kind of my stopping point. When I have 20, I try to stop because I could just go forever. Then my last nice piece that I made was vertical. I then took the other one and cut a vertical strip. There's actually 4, and I cut off the top leaf, the 4th leaf, and I made a vertical aligned focal. And I do want to get this back. So I'm going to put all of these on a different base that I've already shown. Okay, so first you can do the card tone on tone. I've already wrapped the evening evergreen trim around the copper. Then I made a special thank you that was originally created to be with this, just like so. And then see, they're sticking to me. I have 3 of these leaves prepared. So it's kind of a balance. You can see the 3 where they were popped out. Here they are popped out. I did do sponging. I popped them up. And then you can add, I think in this case, I went ahead and did just like that. And I love this card. This is probably my favorite, right here. Love it. And now here's what it looks like on the full evening evergreen. Which the little chevron pattern here matches the pattern on the trim. And the funny thing is, my husband, this just doesn't do it for him. He likes the shaker card way better than this one, and this one is my favorite. So everybody's different. All right, so that's all I've got. I've used up a whole bunch of time. After this is the showcase, which has 20 different images of mixing and matching all of different variety of setups that I created. Be sure to leave your comments, questions, or suggestions here on the video or over on my blog, where I will have all of the extra supplies that I did use. I will not, well, I could add the 2 that I suggested that I didn't use. I will put those on there as well, because I do think those are a good match. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.